is an additional level or layer of labor that makes carrying your mental load if you're neurodiverse difficult.
Hi, I'm Professor Leah Ruppanner. As a sociologist, I've made it my life's mission to take down every ridiculous gender myth out there. Like, do pretty people get paid more, or are women better multitaskers? This is MissPerceived.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to MissPerceived. On today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about something that I keep hearing through my socials, through conversations I'm having with people after my book, Drained, Reduce Your Mental Load to Do Less and Be More, came out. And this is this idea that, like, those of you who are living with who are neurodiverse, right? Who have brains that operate and work in different ways, are neurodivergent, are telling me that actually the mental load you experience is more complicated. It's heavier. It's more complex. And I want to talk to you about a little bit about what I'm hearing and why. So for those of you who are new to this and don't know, the mental load is emotional thinking work. It's the work you do to keep your work, life, and family running. And it's different to other types of work that you do in that it's totally internal. It's done inside your brain. It's completely invisible. You can take it anywhere you want. It's boundaryless and it's enduring. And it's this emotional thinking work to keep everything running. Now, it's different to just list making. So we often think about cognitive labor as being like kind of list making or tracking things like, okay, today I need to go here, or keeping a list or keeping a calendar. That can be one way to tackle your mental load, but it is not the mental load. So let me give you an example. A mental load would be something like, we need to remember, I'll do it the opposite way. Cognitive labor might be something like, okay, we need to remember to sign our child up for summer camp or fill out their school forms. Putting that on a to-do list and then getting it done would be simple cognitive labor. I just say, I'm going to do that. I go to the website, I put in the information, I make the booking, and it's done. The mental load is the emotional thinking work we do where we go, we need to make sure that my child remembers to get a doctor's appointment or go to summer camp. Oh my God, do we have the right one? Is it actually going to be open? I need to make sure that it's close enough for them. I need to make sure that they will be happy in it. Are their friends going to be there? What does the timing look like? When do I have to sign up for this? This is emotional thinking work because it's tied to the people we love. And you can already see why it gets a little bit like bigger, heavier, wider. Now, my question for you is this. If I tell you about this emotional thinking work you do where you're, trying to keep track of everything that's happening, making sure your child has everything they need, making sure your partner has everything they need, making sure you have everything you need. What if your brain works differently to other people? What if as you're doing all this emotional thinking work, you actually have a brain that is easily distracted? You have a brain that actually ruminates on things. You have a brain that will go to the worst case scenario and you actually have to break that thought process. You have a brain that actually is different to those of other people. You then are going to have to manage how your brain works on top of the mental load of getting everything done. I would hear this across interviews. And one of the interviews that we did in particular, I remember a parent saying in this interview, like, not only do I have to make sure that the task gets done, but I also have to explain to everyone in the family about what my brain is doing so it can fit in with how their brain is working. That is an additional level or layer of labor that makes carrying your mental load if you're neurodiverse difficult. So I don't know if you remember, but I had a previous episode where I talked about what it looked like for the kids, right? So if you have neurodiverse kids or you have kids with complex care, that what I was saying to you on that one was like the parents were talking about the process was heavier, that stages of the process felt heavier. But in addition to that, they had to deal with institutions. That's if your kid is neurodiverse or you have a family member you're taking care of or something like that. But what about when it's you? What about it when you are having to respond to this? What does that look like? And what I keep hearing from people is, yes, this is what's happening, but it's even harder for me because I have to manage the fact that my brain is going to work differently and doesn't fit like the puzzle with everyone else's brain. I'm going to talk to you about where I'm hearing this the most. It's not that I'm hearing that it is actually different in terms of the 8 different mental load types, but what I'm hearing is that it's different in terms of the stages. So for my book, so in my book, I introduce you to 7 distinct stages of the mental load. Now, Allison Damager did research previously about cognitive labor, and she talks about kind of 4 stages: anticipating a need, identifying options, deciding, and monitoring. As we did our surveys, as we did our interviews, as we did our research, we heard actually that it was quite more diverse than this, that actually the mental load looked different in terms of the process. And so let me give you what we identify across this research from our hundreds and hundreds of interviews and thousands of data points, right? That this is where we see the mental load as being kind of a longer process. The mental load has 7 distinct stages. Are you ready? Here we go. Number 1, you need to identify. This is where you need to identify something that needs to be done, a problem. Maybe the fridge is empty, noticing the fridge is empty before anyone else does. 2, then you need to remember. You've identified something, now you need to remember. This could be holding 50 things in your head that are never written down. Who needs to go where? What needs to be done? What needs to be done for your work? What needs to be done for your life? 3, strategizing. This is who's going to do what of this work? How are we going to tackle this problem? 4, you need to make a decision. Who is going to do the work? Is it going to be me? Am I going to allocate it out to someone else? What does that look like? 5, you have to delegate, give that work to someone else, ask them to help, ask them to show up. And then 6, you have to execute. This is a part of the doing. This is where the work comes out of the brain and becomes physical, right? You live with it physical. You see the manifestation of the work. This is the easiest part. This is the visibility on it. 7, monitoring, checking to make sure everything is being done right. Surrounded by all of these 7 stages, and I'll give them to you again: identifying, remembering, strategizing, decision-making, delegating, executing, and monitoring, is the fact that life is unpredictable. Unpredictability of life means that at any point, any of these stages could be thrown awry, right? They can be thrown into chaos, which means you either need to act quickly, or you might need to hold between 1 and a million contingency plans to make sure things are going to go the way you want them to. Now, what we heard across the interviews was that these stages become different, distinct, heavier, sometimes lighter, based on whether you're neurodiverse. I live with someone who has ADHD. My husband has ADHD. And what he actually talks about is, in those moments when things become chaotic, his brain is really good at finding the solutions and keeping it going and staying calm. So in this regard, for his mental load, right, that there will be that unpredictability is not as debilitating for him as it would be for me. But for him, this idea of remembering stuff is very difficult because his brain goes from one thing to the next to the next. So in those moments, he either forgets, right? And that can create a problem later on, or he needs to go into his life and create a system to help him remember. I heard this from other people too, as we started talking about this in the world. The people who are neurodiverse would say, like, my brain, because I have ADHD, needs a system to track all of this stuff. But then my brain likes something new. It doesn't like the system. Like, once I have the system, I have to build a new system, because sometimes my brain can tire on this. And so it's not a set it and forget it. And what I'm trying to say is, as you're doing that work of the 7 stages of the mental load, you're also doing the work of figuring out when your brain is working in those 7 stages and when you need to build systems to keep things going. One mom said to me, like, not only am I doing this for myself, but then I'm doing it for my kids, and because they have ADHD, right? They're neurodiverse, and I'm trying to figure out how to keep us always in balance, so things get done that need to get done, and we're having kind of we're developing new strategies. This is a mental load process that becomes distinct, heavier, and at times overwhelming. You can imagine that if you have a brain that's prone to catastrophizing, prone to that, then monitoring and anticipating, identifying the problems, right? That can become really, really overwhelming. You can have a brain that gets stuck in the unpredictability, gets stuck in the monitoring, gets stuck in the identifying. And in those circumstances, you could see why your brain might start to ruminate around that. And you might need to break some of that cycle. You might need to break some of that process. Now, this is your physiology of the brain, and I'm not a brain scientist, but I'm telling you what I'm hearing back. But compounding that is you have a social system, a social structure. You're living within these social norms that tell you that you need to get this all right. That in particular, if you're a woman, that you are disproportionately responsible for making sure that everything is happening as it should in the family. Everyone's being taken care of. That to not give to others is selfish, that you're supposed to self-sacrifice and you're supposed to monitor and you're supposed to anticipate people's needs and you're supposed to identify problems before they even come because that's a way to show love. And you're supposed to do this all for free and for love and for the compassion of the family. And then you have a brain that's prone to rumination or prone to not remembering stuff in either direction, right? You're ruminating on stuff and you're thinking about what could go wrong and you're trying to build contingency plans and you're trying to anticipate and you're trying to identify and you're trying to make sure that everything runs smoothly. And your family's there like, chill out, this is too much. But you have this brain that's going. And you're actually doing this not because you are some sort of, obsessive person, but actually your brain is doing this. Plus the society is telling you simultaneously that you are responsible for making sure everything is perfect and nothing should go wrong. And it's a recipe for disaster. Or you have a brain that actually finds it very difficult to remember things. And so you are forgetting things, including maybe your child sometimes at school. The true story happened to me. And then you feel awful because you can't remember in the ways that other people can. But it is not your fault because your brain doesn't work this way. The challenge is that the social norms don't give us the grace we need around this variation. And so you are probably spending part of your mental load energy thinking about, am I failing? Is this social norms? Am I being a good parent, good person, good worker, good whatever? And there is tension between what is reasonable or not. What is a reasonable amount of mental load to spend in these directions? And when are you tipping over into unhelpful rumination or tipping over into problematic forgetting? I'm giving you two examples, but you can imagine there's a range within. And I think that's part of the work that needs to be done. I do have in the book, The Mental Load Audit, I've talked to you about it. I have a podcast episode where I walk you through it. But I think really understanding kind of, where are the priorities and what are the goals? Where are your values and what is the norms or the narratives or the dimensions of your diagnosis that make kind of these three or four pieces difficult to operate together, and then getting clear on actually what is the key and critical thinking work that you need to do, what can be dropped, what can be handed to others, what can be reduced. And then in addition to that, having conversations with your family. I know this has been so valuable within my household, is having my partner explain to me like how his brain works. I'm not trying to do this because I don't love you, just my brain doesn't work this way. It's very hard for me to remember things. I'm not forgetting because I don't care. I'm forgetting because I actually just have a brain that it has struggles around this executive functioning piece. And to know that that isn't personal to me, but that is actually just the beautiful diversity in the ways in which we operate in the world is helpful because it allows it to feel less like a personal attack or a personal misgiving or a personal deficit, and more, it lets me step in with compassion, right? Like, oh, okay, is this what's going on? And curiosity. Compassion and curiosity are often key to countering our negative feelings and judgment, and then to figure out how to build systems together to help support each other. This is my goal for you. How do we do this? How do we understand how these pieces fit together? How do we understand how we build out systems that can support everyone, whether you're living with, ADHD or OCD or bipolar disorder, or you're living with a brain that works differently to others? And how do we understand how your mental load is carried in that way? I would love to hear more about how this is experienced for you. What does it look like? What are the strategies you build? Actually, if you could share through strategies, I'll share them through to everyone else on this podcast and let people know. My goal is to kind of collate information, collate experience, share it back to you, shine some lights on it, and then get some insights in terms of what works for you and what doesn't so that we can share it with the world. So let me know. I'm serious about that. Let me know, let me know, let me know. Y'all, as per always, thank you for listening to MissPerceived, where you don't need a PhD, but you just get to come hang out with me. And for those of you who are doing your mental loads in ways that are different to others, I see you, I value you, and the world is better because of your beautiful brains. So you are such a light to us all. You bring us so much insight, energy, and interest, and I thank you. Okay, have a wonderful week. I'll see you next week. I love you, and goodbye. Mwah, 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 mwah.
We are so lucky and grateful that this series is being supported by the Melbourne Public Humanities Initiative at the University of Melbourne.